Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. There is no doubt that among the many forms of crisis our Muslim community is facing in America, one of them is identity crisis. And that is due to the powerful but un-Islamic environment. This is precisely one of the fundamental reasons why Imam Shamsi established Nusantara Foundation in 2014. Since then, Nusantara has been undertaking a variety of initiatives to introduce Islam as a mercy to America and humanity. Since the beginning of 2018, Nusantara has taken a bold initiative to establish the first Islamic boarding school in America. A piece of 25-acre land has been acquired with several old buildings in the beautiful city of Modus, Connecticut for this purpose. But Nusantara cannot do this noble project without Allah's help and your kind donation and participation. Please do help and donate generously to Nusantara Foundation. For donations, kindly turn your eyes toward the TV screen. May Allah reward you all abundantly. وجزاكم الله خيرا.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome back with me, Davira Chairunnisa, in the Islamic in the West Challenges and Opportunities series with Imam Shamsi. Assalamualaikum Imam.
Assalamualaikum.
How are you today?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.
Alhamdulillah. Ramadan Mubarak Imam.
Ramadan Kareem inshallah.
Okay, so today we'll be continuing our discussions, Imam, about Islamophobia. But I'm curious to know more about Dawah as a Muslim, especially in this country, America. So I want to clarify first about the terms of Dawah itself. Can you explain more about this?
You know, yes, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dawah certainly is a fundamental thing in Islam. That is the main mission of the prophets and the messengers, to come to make da'wah. But oftentimes we narrow the understanding of da'wah into lectures, into seminars, whatever, and often even misunderstanding of da'wah by meaning to convert the people. If you see the ayat, the verses of the Holy Quran that Allah talk about da'wah, it is mostly da'wah into the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never being in the Quran, Allah says, Udu'u ila al-Islam, or make da'wah to Islam, but to the way of Allah. And it is very important here. So why Allah says, Udu'u ila sabili rabbika, invite the people to the way of your Lord. Because Allah wanted to say that even when the people do not enter into Islam, at least that they change in their life. The way of Lord can be when they, for example, don't kill, but they're still Christians. They don't commit crimes, but they're still Jew. That's da'wah too. So da'wah is a very general term, and it is fundamentally required for every Muslim to engage, because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ died, he passed away, and then when he passed away, it means the continuation of the obligation of making da'wah is on our shoulder. So every individual Muslim must make da'wah. But what is da'wah? Coming back to the question, the definition of da'wah is to invite to the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by all means, but every way possible. And there are many ayat in the Holy Quran talk about da'wah. Among those ayat, Allah says in the Quran, Surah Al-Hujr, in Surah Yusuf, Allah says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَا إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. Is there any better word more than calling the people to the way of Allah and say وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and say that I am a Muslim? If you see this ayah very carefully, number one, Allah wanted to say that calling the people to the way of Allah is the best action, best deed. Number two, must be وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, and that is true action, not only by speeches but true action, by our amal, by our character, by our behavior. And then at the end of the ayah, Allah says وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ, and he says we are among the Muslims. It means we have to show them they were Muslim, because the word qala in Arabic is not only saying by tongue but also saying by action. Right. So وَقَالَ إِنَّ, it means Muslims must making da'wah by action. And so da'wah is something that every Muslim must do. No matter who you are, whatever you do in life, you are a da'i in the path of Allah. Because Rasulullah ﷺ is commanded in another surah, Allah says to him, قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة وأنا ومن اتبعني. That, oh Muhammad, tell your people that this is my way. This is my way. Calling the people ala basira, with clear guidance, with clarity. Ana, me, and everyone who follows me. Ana wa man ittaba'ani. So every follower of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a da'i. Okay. Now, so that is what da'wah is all about. Now, how to make da'wah is a very long topic, and we can talk about this in some episodes. But we like to begin by saying that, number one, it is impossible to make da'wah if we ourselves don't have anything, tools to make da'wah. Right. And what is the tool here? Is our own self, our own life. If you don't have Islam, how are you going to make da'wah? If you take your Islam partially, half-heartedly, you're not serious with Islam, how you consider yourself as a da'i? So we have to have Islam in our own life before we consider ourselves a da'i.
Okay, mashallah. So every Muslim, regardless of the role, should make da'wah to other people.
That's right.
And it's not about like the Islam itself, but it's about like the way of Allah teach us, like the good deeds.
Yes.
Okay, so what is the first thing that we need to do as a Muslim in order for us to make a da'wah?
As I mentioned briefly before, that number one, we have to have Islam. Yeah. Now, what is the meaning of having Islam? Number one, we have to have faith in Al-Islam. We believe it, and we take it very seriously, and we see that Islam is the true religion of Allah. Inna dina inda Allahi al-Islam. And it also means that by believing in Islam, we have a self-confidence. Because if you don't have self-confidence in making da'wah, it's difficult to continue. Right. You know, a story of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, how he was challenged by his people. And the kuffar came to his uncle, Abu Talib. And he said, yeah, Abu Talib, what Muhammad wants. If you want to become a king, we make him king. If you want to be married the most beautiful woman, we find him the most beautiful woman in the city to marry. If you want to become a rich, you make him richest person in the city. But stop. You know, this is a challenge. You know, he was basically persuaded by the non-believers, the Makkans, to stop his da'wah. But because he believed in Al-Islam, and he sees that he believed that Islam is the truth, and is the way to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he is proud of it, he said to his uncle, when uncle told him, he said, you know, لو وضعوا الشمس على يميني والقمر على يساري, if they put the sun on my right hand and the moon on my left hand, it means if they give me everything else, I will never abandon this responsibility. And this is only possible when we do believe in what we are doing. So making da'wah must be with faith, must be with belief. You have to believe it, you have to have self-confidence, and must feel that you are representing the truth that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the first one that we have to have. Unless you have that, don't dream to become a da'i. You cannot do it. You are going to fail in the middle of the way. Number two, certainly knowledge. Knowledge is very necessary. The person who doesn't have knowledge doesn't have any way to deliver da'wah. It is not about talking here. It is about the knowledge how to be Muslim. You know, if you don't know how to pray properly, and you don't know what this prayer is all about, if you don't know the Quran, you don't know the Hadith, and you then claim to be a da'i, what type of da'wah that you want to call to? So you have to have knowledge, and that is why knowledge in Islam is necessary. It's very important. Ayat of the Holy Quran emphasize the importance of knowledge. You know, the largest verses, ayah in the Holy Quran is the ayat al-Quran that talk about brain.
Right.
Don't you think? Don't you reflect? Don't you ponder? Don't you know? Afala ta'qilun, afala ta'lamun, afala tatafakkarun, afala tatadabbarun. All these ayat is talking about brain. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to emphasize the importance of knowledge in Islam. There are thousands of hadith talk about knowledge. Talabul ilmi faridatum ala kulli muslim. Seeking knowledge is obligatory upon Muslims, male and female. You know, seek knowledge from cradle to graveyard. You know, there are many hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So knowledge is very important in making da'wah, because if you don't have knowledge about Islam, what type of thing that you're going to give? The Arab people used to say, فَاقِدُ الشَّيْءِ لَا يُعْطِي. The person who's empty-handed, you don't have anything in your hands. How are you going to give? What are you going to give? You want to give money, but you don't have money. You want to give Islam, but you don't have Islam because you don't know. So you have to have knowledge. This is number two. But knowledge also is concerning about not only about Islam, not only about Quran, not only about Hadith, but also about the society where we make da'wah.
Okay.
If you make da'wah in America, you have to know about American people. You have to know America is all about. You know how it is possible for someone who doesn't know America and come and making da'wah in America. You don't know how to speak the language, you don't know the culture, you don't know how the social circumstances, but how it is possible to convey Islam. Now you are going to talk about Islam based in your understanding in Indonesia or Bangladesh. It doesn't make sense for some Americans, you know. So we have to know the society where we live in, and it is very important because the Quran itself says, "Huwa alladhi ba'atha fil ubbiyina rasulan minhum." He's the one who sent a messenger unto them from among themselves. Now, what is the meaning of minhum, from among themselves? It means when you make da'wah in one area, in one location, in one country, that be a part of that country. You know, don't just pretend, don't feel that you're a guest and making da'wah. You know, particularly in America, when you feel that you want to call the American people to Islam, they will ask this question: how it is possible for you to call me? I know better than you. You know, as American people, sometimes they feel more knowledgeable than us. So this is number two, knowledge. And number three, of course, we have to have a lot of patience and you know, persistency. You have to be persistent. You have to be consistent. We can discuss this in details, but my point that we must, number one, faithful. We have to have faith and knowledge about Quran and Hadith, and also knowledge about the society where we live in.
Okay, Imam, this is really great. So, like faith, knowledge, and also persistence. But regarding this, as minority in the U.S., in America, how can be for us not to be inferior, like among the society, to da'wah?
That's what I call you know, self-confidence. Because when you believe, your belief means your faith. That faith make you strong. And being strong here means self-confidence. It means I feel I'm representing the truth. So whoever just I give you one example. Right. After the 9/11, I was the Muslim invited to represent the Muslim community at the first press conference in response to the 9/11 tragic event in 2001. So you can imagine, for the first time in your life, standing in front of the TVs, all type of TV. You have CNN, Fox News, NBC, from Russia, from Europe, all type of TV, you can name it. You can imagine 9/11 is a huge thing. So all TVs are there, and now you are standing in front of the TV to talk on behalf of Islam, on behalf of the Muslims. I was only 4 or 5 years in America. My English was Makassari Indonesian English. It was difficult for me to express, and I didn't prepare anything. I didn't read it. I don't have any notes. So I just stood there, and what really boosted my spirit was two things. Number one, I'm talking on behalf of the truth, and I believe Islam is the truth. Yeah. Number two, I'm talking on behalf of the Muslims worldwide, not only in America, but all the world, and we are the big religious community. Yeah. But more particularly, I am here representing Indonesian Muslim, which is the largest Muslim country. Yeah. All these factors make me strong and have self-confidence, and I say what I did say. You know, I didn't even remember what they said, and now after finishing my presentation, I went, get out, and I asked my friend, he was working with the Interfaith Center in New York, his name is Taimur Yoskayev, he is now a professor at in one of the university in Connecticut, and I asked him, did I say it right? And he said, yes, you said everything beautiful. So I said, what did I say? Because I didn't remember even. You know, it is just because I have the self-confidence, you know. Similarly, when I met President Bush, you know, can you imagine meeting President of the United States? This is a powerful country. Yeah. This is the President Bush. And when he shook hand to me, you know, first when he came and met me, he was joking basically. He said, whose kid is this? Who's this small kid, you know? Because I was so small among the religious leaders. Yeah. So we shook hands, and I told him 3 things. Number one, I said, Mr. President, my condolence. On behalf of the Muslim community, my condolence to the American people for what happened. But number 2, Mr. President, this terrorist attack has nothing to do with my faith and my community. Though Muslims IQs, but they don't represent us. It's nothing to do with my community. And he shook head. But then I said, Mr. President, indeed God is with the truth and justice. And that is a very courageous, because to say that to the American president who believed that God is with America, now we change it into God is truth and justice. This is a challenge. I challenge him, because a day before he said, God is with America. Looks like those who disagree with America is not with God. So I said, no. God is with the truth and justice. If America is true and just, okay, you can claim that God is with America. But if you're not truthful, you are not just, then don't claim it. Now, what is the reason I'm courageous to say that in front of the President of the United States? Because of the self-confidence. I do believe that I represent Islam. I do believe that I say the truth, and that's why I have the self-confidence. Similarly, when you make da'wah, you have to believe, you have to have faith, so that you can have that self-confidence.
Okay. All right, Imam, this is very interesting to be discussed more in the next episodes, but we have to end these discussions today. Thank you so much for coming to today's episode. Thank you so much for watching today's episodes. I'm Davira Chairunnisa. I'll be back tomorrow with Imam Shamsi to discuss more about Islamophobia in the West. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. There is no doubt that among the many forms of crisis our Muslim community is facing in America, one of them is identity crisis. And that is due to the powerful but un-Islamic environment. This is precisely one of the fundamental reasons why Imam Shamsi Ali established Nusantara Foundation in 2014. Since then, Nusantara has been undertaking a variety of initiatives to introduce Islam as a mercy to America and humanity. Since the beginning of 2018, Nusantara has taken a bold initiative to establish the first Islamic boarding school in America. A piece of 25-acre land has been acquired with several old buildings in the beautiful city of Modus, Connecticut for this purpose. But Nusantara cannot do this noble project without Allah's help and your kind donation and participation. Please do help and donate generously to Nusantara Foundation. For donations, kindly turn your eyes toward the TV screen. May Allah reward you all abundantly. وجزاكم الله خيرا.